The Bloodline has been the main story of most WWE programming on TV for over 3.5 years now, with hours and hours of first-run content across multiple video platforms, massive changes behind the scenes within WWE, and the tough transitions out of the pandemic time. This collective of the Samoan wrestling dynasty, with Roman Reigns as its key figure, has been the central focus of WWE television. You might even say we're living in the Bloodline era itself. In that time, we've seen a lot happen. We've seen members, both within the family and honorary designees, join and leave the Bloodline. There have been so many changes in the last few years, but one thing has remained. Roman Reigns is still the tribal chief, and he is still the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. We did a full recap of the Bloodline story up to a certain point, and you should really check it out. It's 30 minutes long and gives you a comprehensive recap, so maybe you don't have the time to stream all of it as it happened on Peacock. It covers all of the drama dripping from the Samoan Bloodline from August of 2020 to the summer of 2023. This is Sportskeeda Wrestling. Let's get into the latest chapter of the Bloodline era. When we last left off, Jimmy Uso was fresh off turning against Roman and the Bloodline in Saudi Arabia. His brother Jay, one half of the Usos, was yet to officially side with his brother against the Bloodline. The build-up to Money in the Bank in London saw Jay Uso definitely not picking a side. Was he going to choose with his own brother, or would he betray him and stand with his cousin in the Bloodline? After a lot of tension, Jay, being lured in by the promise of becoming the next tribal chief, made his stance clear by super kicking Roman Reigns to kickstart a civil war within the faction. It culminated in the main event of Money in the Bank in the UK, where Jay and Jimmy, fresh off the separation from Roman, faced the duo of Roman and their own little brother, Solo Sikoa. It was one of the best WWE tag team main events in quite some time, and it had a stunning finish. Everybody always assumed that if the Usos were winning, Solo Sikoa would be the one to take the pin. Roman ever protected on his pedestal. Jimmy and Jay's partnership, their brotherhood, helped them overcome Roman and Solo. But it wasn't Solo who took the pin. It was his first pinfall defeat in over 3.5 years. Roman fell to Jay Uso. The brother he tormented for so long was now the first man to pin him in WWE in years. It was easily one of the most shocking moments of the year for WWE. Roman Reigns, the Darth Vader of WWE, who manipulated his own family around him to secure his power in an unrelenting ego trip, seemed untouchable. Through every cowardly trick and villainous tactic, was human. Roman was no longer perceived as a wrestling god. He was brought down from his Mount Olympus momentarily, a mortal man whose shoulders could be held down for 3 seconds, just like anyone else in pro wrestling. The next episode of WWE SmackDown saw the Usos hold a tribal court segment for Roman Reigns, who teased giving up his role as the tribal chief, only to insert a metaphysical dagger into the Usos' back. Both Roman and Solo viciously assaulted Jimmy and took him out, leading to Jay Uso to challenge for the undisputed Universal Championship at SummerSlam. There were big stakes here on this one, with the tribal combat rules being the stipulation that anything goes. And that means there could be a lot of outside interference, which tends to be a thing in every Roman Reigns match, right? And apart from just the Universal Championship, Roman Reigns put his position as tribal chief on the line as well. And he would have to acknowledge Jay if he won the match. And if you don't remember the finish of that match, it was just a tad bit deflating in terms of all of the hype and drama dripping off the screen with all of the people who were playing roles in this story. And a twist that some feel in retrospect was just Diminishing to the whole storyline of the Bloodline, Jimmy Uso returned and cost his brother Jay, helping Roman Reigns once again retain the Universal Championship. Jimmy rejoining the Bloodline after Roman and Solo brutally assaulted him just a few months prior made literally 0 sense. It's also worth noting that Jimmy is the one who got Jay to turn on the Bloodline in the first place. The instant reaction for most people can be summed up in one word: underwhelming. This also was not that far removed from January of 2023 when Sami Zayn, the honorary Uso, smacked a steel chair into Roman Reigns' back at the Royal Rumble and launched everything for the Bloodline going into WrestleMania 39. People thought that was the Bloodline on its last legs, but they kept it going through the summer with the big Money in the Bank shocking finish. This would keep it going at SummerSlam 2023, only for the momentum to feel like it dropped like a brick. Some have argued that this is the weakest point in the entire story arc so far, especially considering that Roman Reigns takes a lot of time off after this. But it didn't stop the wheel from spinning there, and it was still the big fallout and chaos at SummerSlam to follow. As far as the explanation goes, Jimmy Uso gave a pretty weak one. He said that he was afraid of his brother Jey Uso becoming the tribal chief, and it would lead to him getting corrupt with power the same way Roman Reigns was. At least there was a bit of consistency in the sense that Jimmy didn't want to realign with Roman. It seemed like it was all about jealousy of his brother Jey getting a title shot and maybe even the title of tribal chief, I guess. Jey Uso, for his part, responded by attacking him and announcing he was quitting WWE. This was more of a move meant to kickstart both Jimmy and Jey as single superstars, because only a few weeks later at the Payback Premium Live event, Cody Rhodes announced that Jey Uso was the newest member of Monday Night Raw. I guess Jey just quit SmackDown? It became a bit clear that WWE had to do this if they wanted to go far with the much anticipated brother versus brother, Jimmy versus Jey WrestleMania match. As of now, that still isn't confirmed. And that's a match we're waiting to be announced, but both brothers have stated for a long time now that their biggest dream is to face each other in a singles match at WrestleMania, the same way Owen Hart took on Bret Hart in an all-time classic at WrestleMania 10 in Madison Square Garden back in the 90s. It didn't take long for Jey Uso to start finding success on his own. He was always a little bit more popular or personable with some fans, and now he was truly on his own, and it seemed like the options were endless for him. It was a great refresh for Jey, who seemed like he was going to benefit from being away from the shadow of Roman Reigns. The initial reaction to Jimmy's singles run wasn't nearly the same. Jimmy not only regressed by attempting to and eventually rejoining the Bloodline, but his character arc didn't seem as appealing either. Still, he took a more comedic supporting role in his character, and while it took some time, he has really grown into it. He's still a 100% professional in his own right. Over on Monday nights, Jey Uso found immediate success with Cody Rhodes, as they became undisputed tag team champions for just about 9 days. Now, there seem to be only 2 reasons as to why they were champions. A, to have that moment on SmackDown where Cody and Roman Reigns stared at each other, that was pretty cool. And B, to further establish the Jimmy versus Jey story. In the meanwhile, John Cena returned and got into it with the Bloodline, almost teaming up with AJ Styles to face Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso. But after AJ Styles was taken out, LA Knight took his spot and teamed up with Cena to defeat Solo and Jimmy. Another big loss for the Bloodline on a premium live event in tag team action. Right around this time, Roman Reigns also returned, and although John Cena teased having a third one-on-one big showdown with him, he admitted he didn't earn a title shot. Ever so earnest, John Cena. But he knew someone who did. LA Knight, who not only beat Solo Sikoa clean in the middle in singles action, but ended up securing a shot at the undisputed Universal Championship at Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. LA Knight was one of the single stars outside of the Bloodline picture who was easily one of the fastest rising names in all of professional wrestling. LA Knight ultimately fell short in what was a huge test for him in a main event premium live event position, and he wasn't done with the Bloodline just yet. Of course, they needed all of the help to help Roman win yet another match that he couldn't win on his own. In that same event, Solo Sikoa would squash John Cena clean in the middle, the biggest win of his career, one that sent Cena to the shelf, leaving many to question whether or not Cena's career was done. Wow, what a feather in the cap of Solo Sikoa. But WWE absolutely didn't capitalize on this, still making Solo the second man since Austin Theory to beat John Cena and not really benefit from the momentum of beating John Cena. I know we might be taking the tweezers out here, but Solo Sikoa is definitely someone who deserves a little bit more for all the support he's done to keep Roman going. Jey Uso was still doing some big things away from the Bloodline, taking on the Judgment Day the same month he participated in the War Games Survivor Series main event against them, where the returning Randy Orton helped the team itself along with Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins pick up the big win. Orton would be Roman Reigns' next adversary. He was taken out by the Bloodline in 2022. Causing him to have a serious rehabilitative road back to wrestling, one where some thought he may never return, causing him to be on the shelf for 18 months of his career. The Viper slithered back into action, and he wanted to sink his teeth into Roman Reigns and take that title. But it wasn't just him who would return to challenge Roman Reigns. LA Knight was still in the running for a title shot, and AJ Styles returned out of nowhere, attacking him, making it clear that he didn't appreciate the mega star, taking his spot months earlier in the Fastlane tag team match that eventually led to him getting a Universal title shot. While Jey Uso fell short of the World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins in December of that year, he continued marching on and would lose a little bit of steam in early 2024. Or really just kind of be in a holding pattern. Lines of electricity would shock through the WWE universe when the Brahma Bull snorted his way back into the WWE picture. The Rock also made a surprise return, teasing a mega showdown years in anticipation between him and Roman, with the simple line, should he take his seat at the head of the table. Ooh, yeah. And this was just weeks before The Rock, one of the biggest movie stars in the world, who was getting eyeballs back on WWE from casual fans, would take an actual seat at the head of the table for WWE, becoming an executive of TKO, the parent company of WWE. In the words of good old JR Jim Ross, business was about to pick up. Come Royal Rumble, things got interesting. Sure, Roman Reigns was able to retain the Universal Championship in a fatal four-way scenario with LA Knight, Randy Orton, and AJ Styles, but the men's Royal Rumble match itself, we got one more major Jimmy versus Jay tease. Jay was entry number 1, Jimmy was entry number 2, leading to the fight between the two, a precursor, obviously, to WrestleMania 40. Oh, that Rumble match, always setting something else up for the big Mania stage. The Rumble itself was ultimately won by the man who had been in the shadows, waiting to once again get his revenge on Roman, the American Nightmare, who was robbed in the WrestleMania main event at WrestleMania 39. Now, he had gone back-to-back with Rumble matches, and he had been the first man in over 26 years to do so. He had his sights set, being the Rumble winner, to once again face a big champion at WrestleMania. But it became clear, right then and there, standing on the top rope in all of his post-Royal Rumble glory, Cody looked at Roman Reigns, who is sitting way above most of the crowd in a skybox suite, that the WrestleMania main event would be made official in just a matter of time. We would get a rematch from the previous year's Mania in Los Angeles. It all added up. Rhodes' failure to capture the undisputed Universal Championship in the main event of WrestleMania 39, he wanted to win that one title that eluded his Hall of Fame father, Dusty Rhodes, the WWE Championship, which was now unified within the Universal Championship. Everything added up, except it suddenly didn't. Cody Rhodes was approached by WWE World Heavyweight Champion Seth freaking Rollins, who looked a little bit desperate, trying to get himself to be the man Cody would challenge for a world title at WrestleMania, claiming that his title was the working man's title and not the one that Roman Reigns had connived and tricked his way into retaining for so long. But what he didn't expect was to stand by his mortal enemy's side heading into WrestleMania. Yeah, there was still a whole lot of bad blood between Rollins and Rhodes. Remember that Hell in a Cell situation? In a bit of a shocker, Cody Rhodes told Roman Reigns on SmackDown that he wouldn't face him at WrestleMania, and seemingly gave up his spot for The Rock, who stared his family member Roman down at the end of SmackDown, alluding to the also much anticipated Roman versus Rock match. The aftermatch was something that WWE should have expected. Cody had that momentum. He was the valiant Captain America of WWE. But for whatever reason, they didn't see the backlash online coming. Social media was rife, rife, I tell you, with anti-Rock posts. And the narrative was that he used his newly acquired position as the TKO board member to politic. You smell what he's cooking his way into a WrestleMania main event. A special one, Roman versus Rock, is still something fans want to see, but maybe not what they want to see at this year's WrestleMania. For obvious reasons, from even the most casual fans, it felt like it made no sense to have the Royal Rumble winner, who is there week in and week out, who earned his spot in the WrestleMania World title match, to forego it to a guy who hadn't wrestled an official match with WWE in 11 freaking years. Yes, that guy is still The Rock, one of the biggest movie stars in the world, but that isn't going to stop WWE fans who have a Twitter account from saying something about it. And to WWE's credit, they acted quickly on the "We Want Cody" movement that trended across all of social media for over 72 hours. All eyes were on the WrestleMania kickoff press conference in Las Vegas just a few days before the Super Bowl. It was a unique event at the T-Mobile Arena with fans in attendance to see Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, and The Rock, and to settle this whole debate about what exactly was going to be the main event of WrestleMania 40. It felt like a premium live event unto itself without any matches. Roman Reigns said that since Cody Rhodes didn't want to make a decision, he would pull some type of invisible, non-existent power he had to make the decision for himself and choose to face The Rock at WrestleMania. Cue The Rock coming out to a very mixed reaction, seemingly acknowledging the negative feedback from the fans present and the fans online watching around the world. He pulled out a huge family tree graphic of the Samoan wrestling bloodline. The Rock trumped it up despite the boos clamoring in that it would be the Universal Champion versus the People's Champion, whether you'd like it or not. Despite the live fan reaction being negative, Rock claimed that this match, bound by blood, would be the biggest main event in pro wrestling history. With The Rock and Roman Reigns seemingly embracing, cementing their nepotistic match in WrestleMania history. Oh, no. It was not to be cemented at all. Cue the interruption fans came to see. No theme music needed as Cody Rhodes came out with a hot mic in his hand. In even hotter words, the clear fan favorite, the rightful Mania title contender, cut it all apart with, "This right here is bull." Also, Seth Rollins was here for all of this, seemingly pushed aside, called even number 2 by Roman Reigns with his World Heavyweight title. In hindsight, it's obvious why he was there, but it was just kind of funny how the World Heavyweight Champion was brushed aside like that. With The Rock and Roman being cut off from their moment, Cody Rhodes and The Rock now at a tense moment, where The Rock felt like his family was being insulted by this match being apparently stolen from them, leading him to slap Cody in the face, forcing all 4 stars to face off and to get separated. For that interaction alone, it seemed like Seth Rollins chose to align with Cody Rhodes, his enemy from 2022, while The Rock and Roman Reigns walked out together as a new 2-man power trip. The Rock even hurled insults towards Triple H, the guy heading all of WWE's creative vision, who told him what he did was out of line. This prompted a moment where The Rock officially joined the Bloodline on SmackDown, reverting back to his late 1990s persona with the Versace shirts and taunting crowds with some very risque humor. It was the first time that The Rock officially turned heel in over 2 decades, so it wasn't a surprise that everybody ate it up and found it hard to hate him but still boo him and turn out to see him. WWE SmackDown for these specific shows were full arena sellouts, the social media numbers skyrocketing, and the course was seemingly corrected for WrestleMania, still with some question marks, compelling ones, looming about how The Rock and Rollins would play into a 2-night affair that was the biggest WWE event of the year. Still, The Rock, being The Rock, reminded fans why he's so good, and instantly added a fresh and, dare we say, electric element to the Bloodline. It wasn't just any family member, it was the freaking Rock, one of the most popular human beings on Earth. The Rock, who wasn't really a villain in his movies, was now a villain in WWE, bringing all of that star power that felt like it was already being put on a stacked roster. WrestleMania really felt like WrestleMania coming up. And no, we don't count his version of Black Adam as an outright villain. That's a whole other video we can film. But this new Bloodline under Rocky, now this is truly something different. Going off into a side little thing, Jey Uso would make it his goal in 2024 to be very clear, to win his first ever singles championship in WWE. He had an opportunity to get that off his bucket list early on in February when he challenged the dominating Intercontinental Champion, the record-breaking Gunther, only for his almost certain victory to be taken by his brother, Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso was like a ghost who kept haunting him. And just like he cost him the undisputed Universal Championship, and just like he made him lose the tag team titles, Jimmy would prevent Jey from winning yet another championship. Jimmy is also very much a part of this new Bloodline. Oh, the layers, the lasagna of dramatic dripping depth we get here. While Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins stated their intentions to take the new Bloodline out, things within the family already led to some tension. The entire time when Rock was around, you would practically hear radio silence from Roman Reigns. And Reigns, who became such an expert trash talker over the course of the last few years, became wildly quiet when he's around The Rock, his more popular, more accomplished, more successful cousin who took over the mic in these segments. In a way, it almost seemed like Roman Reigns was to The Rock what Jey Uso was to Roman. But that changed quickly. In one of The Rock's most recent appearances, Roman Reigns took the mic and demanded that The Rock acknowledge him as his tribal chief. There was a clear moment of tension, Rock taking a $1 million, dare I say, $1 billion pause, something that may get revisited over the course of the coming year. But The Rock was still family first in his approach, and made sure to acknowledge Roman Reigns just like he wanted to. Man, this guy with the acknowledgement. The Rock acknowledged his role as a board member of TKO and declined Cody Rhodes' challenge for a singles match, something Cody put down at the Elimination Chamber Premium Live event. Instead, he was set up for a main event on night 1, offering a match with himself and Roman Reigns against Cody Rhodes and someone he called a walking clown emoji and Seth Rollins. But that wasn't all. The stakes needed to be raised. There were a few high-stakes stipulations, making this, quote, the biggest tag team match of all time. If Roman and The Rock win, then the main event of night 2 for the Universal Undisputed Championship will be Bloodline rules, with The Rock vowing to make sure Cody Rhodes never finishes his story. If Cody and Seth Rollins win, then the main event of Night 2 will have zero Bloodline interference, the ideal scenario for Cody to indeed finish his story. But that wasn't all. The Rock added one big career-altering stipulation. If Cody Rhodes loses to Roman Reigns in the main event of Night 2 of WrestleMania 40, The Rock declared he can never challenge for the WWE Universal Championship ever again and never finish his story. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we are right now as we record this. The two main events of WrestleMania have been made official, and although The Rock and Roman Reigns appear to be a two-man Samoan power trip, the potential for those egos to be combustible elements, can they coexist, is quite obvious from the get-go. In the last 9 months that we've covered in this video, Jimmy and Jey Uso have gone from becoming one of the greatest tag teams of all time to becoming defined single superstars, now set for a very rare brother versus brother match at WrestleMania. Solo Sikoa has been the one to suffer the most, maybe because he's just really a strictly supporting character right now, and if there's anybody who could benefit from moving away from the Bloodline in 2024, it's also him. The Rock, meanwhile, has added a whole new layer of power to the Bloodline, and it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out at WrestleMania 40 with so much on the line. And that is that. Once again, we suggest you check out our previous video recapping the first chunk of the Bloodline that goes all the way up to Money in the Bank 2023. Also, check out our video about why The Rock should maybe betray the Bloodline at WrestleMania. Yeah, we even have an entire video breaking down the entire person-by-person history of the Samoan wrestling dynasty. So much to get into, so much WrestleMania magic before WrestleMania. Until next time, thank you for watching.